Hello and welcome. Today we're diving into the world of writing effective instructional objectives for world language classes. We'll be using the framework of the American Council on the Teaching of Foreign Languages, or ACTFL, and its core documents. Let's take a look. First, we have the ACTFL World Readiness Standards for Learning Languages, the ACTFL Proficiency Guidelines, the ACTFL Performance Descriptors, and the NCSSFL ACTFL Can Do Statements. Let's move into section 1. At the heart of ACTFL's approach are the 5C goal areas, which emphasize applying learning beyond the classroom. They are communication. Learners communicate effectively in more than one language in order to function in a variety of situations and for multiple purposes. Cultures. Learners interact with cultural competence and understanding. Connections. Learners connect with other disciplines and acquire information and diverse perspectives in order to use the language to function in academic and career related situations. Comparisons. Learners develop insight into the nature of language and culture in order to interact with cultural competence. And finally, communities. Learners communicate and interact with cultural competence in order to participate in multilingual communities at home and around the world. These standards give us the what of language education, what students need to know and be able to do. But how do we measure how well they're doing it? That's where our other tools come in. The proficiency guidelines. The ACTFL proficiency guidelines described what individuals can do with language in real world spontaneous situations, regardless of how or where they learned it. The guidelines identify 5 main levels of proficiency: novice, intermediate, advanced, superior, and distinguished. The major levels, advanced, intermediate, and novice, are subdivided into high, mid, and low sublevels. Let's briefly take a look at each of the main levels. Novice. A novice level speaker can communicate short messages on highly predictable everyday topics using isolated words and phrases. They are often difficult to understand, even by sympathetic interlocutors. Intermediate. An intermediate level speaker is distinguished by their ability to create with the language to talk about familiar topics related to their daily life. They produce sentence level language and can handle a straightforward survival situation. Advanced. An advanced level speaker engages in conversation in a clearly participatory manner to communicate information on autobiographical topics, as well as topics of community, national, or international interest. They handle these topics concretely by means of narration and description in the major time frames of past, present, and future. Superior. A superior level speaker can communicate with accuracy and fluency on a variety of topics, participating fully and effectively in formal and informal conversations. They can explain complex matters in detail and present opinions with structured arguments. Distinguished. Distinguished level speakers are educated and articulate language users who can use language skillfully, accurately, and effectively. They can reflect on a wide range of global issues and abstract concepts in a culturally appropriate manner. Now let's take a look at the performance descriptors. Unlike the proficiency guidelines, which measure spontaneous ability, the ACTFL performance descriptors focus on what learners can do in an instructional, rehearsed setting. This is crucial for writing classroom objectives because it describes the language ability that results from direct instruction. The descriptors also use the novice, intermediate, and advanced ranges, but with a key distinction. They describe how a learner performs within a given range on tasks that have been practiced and are in familiar contexts. This means that while a student may be an intermediate low user in a spontaneous conversation or proficiency, they might be performing at an intermediate mid level in a classroom activity that has been practiced. Let's look at some examples from the performance descriptors for each range. Novice range. A learner can engage in a simple conversation by asking and responding to questions, listing, naming, and identifying. They produce highly practiced words, phrases, and occasional simple sentences. For example, they can introduce themselves to a group or state their name, age, and where they live. Intermediate range. A learner can initiate, maintain, and end a conversation to satisfy basic needs and to handle a simple transaction. They can communicate by understanding and creating personal meaning, such as talking about their daily activities using connected sentences. Advanced range. A learner can express themselves fully to maintain conversations on a wide variety of topics with detail and organization. They can communicate with ease and confidence, dealing efficiently with a situation with an unexpected turn of events, such as explaining why they were late to class. Now, let's move on to the can do statements. The NCSSFL ACTFL can do statements are the practical, student friendly application of both the proficiency guidelines and the performance descriptors. They are self assessment checklists that use I can statements to help learners chart their progress. These statements serve as learning targets for curriculum and unit design. For example, instead of a vague objective like students will learn about food, a can do statement provides a clear, measurable goal. These statements align directly with the interpersonal communication mode at the novice high level. It's a clear, actionable goal that connects what is learned in the classroom or performance to a real world use of the language or proficiency. Let's take a look at some examples from the can do statements for each proficiency level. Novice high could be I can ask for and give simple directions. Intermediate mid could be I can make a presentation about common interests and personal experiences. Advanced high, I can deliver a detailed, supported argument about the need for alternative energy sources or other environmental topics. Superior, I can participate fully and effectively in discussions on a variety of topics in formal and informal settings. And finally, distinguished, I can write about global issues from a highly conceptualized and analytical perspectives and tailor my writing to sophisticated readers. Now, knowing all this, how do we write our own objectives? Well, let's take a look at a few examples. Now, putting this all together to write an effective instructional objective. A great objective should be specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. To apply this to our ACTFL framework, we can use this simple formula. The learner will be able to perform a task in mode of communication at the level based on the ACTFL standards. Let's create an example using all the pieces we've discussed. For example 1, we will use novice high. Let's say we have a novice high class. Our objective might be the learner will be able to give simple directions in the presentational speaking mode at the novice high level based on the ACTFL communication standard. This objective is specific and measurable because it's tied to it's tied to a performance descriptor and a can-do statement. I can tell someone how to get from one place to another, such as go straight, turn left, or turn right. For example 2, let's look at an intermediate mid-class. A writing objective could be the learner will be able to write a review of a movie in the presentational mode at the intermediate mid-level based on the ACTFL communication standard. This is also a concrete measurable goal that directly links to a can-do statement. I can write a review of a movie, play, exhibit, etc. For example 3, let's look at an advanced low class. An objective could be the learner will be able to explain an issue of public interest in the presentational speaking mode at the advanced low level based on the ACTFL communication standard. This objective is a great way to measure performance on a specific task and connects directly to the following can-do statement. I can explain issues of public and community interest, including different viewpoints. In conclusion, by grounding our instructional objectives in the ACTFL framework, we move beyond simply teaching grammar rules or vocabulary lists. Instead, we focus on what learners can do with the language, creating a clear and empowering pathway for them to become proficient and confident communicators. Remember, use the ACTFL standards to define the goal area. Reference the proficiency guidelines and performance descriptors to set a realistic level of expectation. And finally, use the can do statements to create clear, measurable, and student focused objectives for your lessons. Thank you for watching.